As we head into 2022, I want to talk about the state of PC gaming. One of the more popular videos on my channel is why I left console behind and why I switched over to PC gaming. Now, the majority of you seem to agree with me. You love the idea of PC gaming, you love the video, and you're mostly on the same page as I am. However, some of you disagree with me and you make the claim that PC gaming is dead. Actually, one person is called PC gaming is dead. This guy is obviously a troll, so I'm not gonna really pay too much attention to him. In fact, Griffin Gaming did a full video on this guy and he absolutely destroyed him. So I will direct my attention elsewhere. But as for the non-trolls on the channel, you actually seem to think that PC gaming is dying or it may already be dead. I like to give credit where credit is due. And for once, there actually seems to be some legitimate reasons why people seem to think that PC gaming is dead. So I want to talk about these reasons and I want to tackle these issues head on, and I want to talk about why PC gaming is not dead and why it's not gonna die anytime soon. Before we hop into it, I will admit that if certain things within the industry don't change within the next year or so, then yeah, PC gaming could be in a world of trouble. PC gaming is not perfect, it's not flawless. There are definitely some things about it that could be improved upon. However, everything has its flaws, and so just because there are one or two things we may not like about PC gaming, that doesn't mean it's dying, and it definitely doesn't mean it's dead. Now, there are a few issues about PC gaming that people keep referring to as the reason why PC gaming is dead. The first reason, and the most common complaint, is about pricing. The second reason is because consoles are now more powerful than ever before. For the first time in history, consoles can consistently hit over 30 frames per second in their games. And this is honestly a very big deal for the console industry. Lastly, the third most common reason that I've seen, at least in my comment section, is around stability and complexity of the PC platform. Some people claim that consoles are more stable, and most people agree that consoles are easier to use and understand. Now, before you write that negative comment about why PC gaming isn't complicated, give me time to get to this section of the video and fully explain it. I know how you feel whenever I make the claim that PC gaming is complicated. Chill. Now, obviously, PC gaming is more expensive than console gaming, but when people complain about the pricing of PC, they're mostly talking about GPU pricing, at least today anyway. Ever since late 2020 all the way until now, GPUs have been very hard to find, and they have been hundreds of dollars over MSRP. GPU pricing is more expensive than it's ever been before, and it's driving me insane just as much as it is all of you. But let's take a minute and look at this objectively. Just because something is expensive, that doesn't mean it's not gonna sell well, and it definitely doesn't mean it's gonna go out of business. In fact, sometimes products being expensive actually lead to more sales. The reason is because there is a perception that a higher price tag equals more value. I mean, just look at Apple. The iPhone is more expensive than it's ever been before, yet it continues to sell millions of units year after year. In fact, Apple reported earlier just this year, they continue to see a 50% year-over-year jump in iPhone sales. Clearly, price increases do not mean an industry is going under. Now, with all of that being said, I do agree that GPU pricing is absolutely beyond ridiculous at this point, and it is not sustainable forever. At some point, prices will have to come back down. Otherwise, yes, the PC gaming industry will be in a world of trouble. But right now, there is higher demand than there's ever been before for GPUs, and retail stores like Micro Center have absolutely no incentive to lower the cost of these GPUs, because every time they put one up for $1,500 or $2,000, people still go out and buy it. And as long as we continue to do that, retail stores will not have a reason to bring the prices down. But hey, what do I know? I'm not an economist. I talk about PC stuff, so whatever, let's move on. Okay, I'm calling this section Console Power. Okay, so the claim is consoles are more powerful than ever before, and because of that, PCs are no longer relevant or no longer needed. Furthermore, the most expensive console is only going to cost you $500, whether if you go with a PlayStation or an Xbox. And these consoles are advertising 4K gameplay at up to 120 frames per second. Why spend thousands of dollars on a PC or even thousands of dollars on a GPU when you can simply spend $500 on a console and have all of this power? Okay, those are fair points and those are valid questions, but these consoles are only useful to you if you can actually buy one. So let's take a look at Best Buy and see if we can get a PlayStation 5 real quick. Oh, looks like it's sold out. Well, what about an Xbox Series X? Would you look at that? Also sold out. Well, what about Amazon? Oh, good news. The PlayStation 5 is in stock. Bad news. They want $1,200 for it. That is more than double the MSRP. Well, what about the Xbox? Oh, look, it's also in stock and not as expensive as the PlayStation 5. You can get it for as low as $1,000. So it's only double the MSRP. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic with my comments. This is terrible, but my point is, people complain about the pricing and availability of the GPUs, but then they praise the consoles. But the consoles are going through the exact same thing as the GPUs. As you just saw, the consoles are either sold out or they're overpriced. And honestly, for the prices of the console that we just saw, you can buy a GPU that's more powerful than the console. But let's be fair, play devil's advocate. Give the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume you can get your hands on a console at the MSRP of $500. I'll be the first person to admit there is a ton of value in a console. More specifically, there is a ton of value in the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. I'm not gonna pretend like these aren't powerful systems, and I'm not gonna pretend like these are not great products, because they are. Does the power of these consoles mean that PC gaming is dead? Well, in order for that to be true, a console would need to be cheaper than a PC while also offering equal or even more performance. So let's take a closer look at the so-called 4K 120 frames per second specification. Take a look at Forza Horizon 5. So Forza Horizon 5 offers both a quality mode and a performance mode. And in quality mode, the Xbox Series X runs Forza Horizon 5 at 4K 30 FPS. But in performance mode, it can run the game at 4K 60 FPS. Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is the image quality settings. Basically, in quality mode, you're getting all ultra settings across the board, whereas in performance mode, you're probably running closer to medium or high settings. For comparison, I have an RTX 3070 Founders Edition GPU, and I can run Forza Horizon 5 at a native 4K with all ultra settings and achieve an average frame rate of 76 frames per second. That is 16 frames per second more on average than what the Xbox Series X can provide in its performance mode. That's also with ray tracing turned on to its highest setting. And on the PlayStation side of things, it's no different. Here's a list of games that provides details on the quality mode versus the performance mode on a wide range of games. In most cases, it's the same thing as the Xbox. 120 frames per second is almost never achieved. In the cases where it is achieved, the console is using dynamic scaling resolution, which means you are losing your native 4K. So what happened to this so-called 4K 120 frames per second? I'll tell you what happened. Marketing. Marketing makes it sound like these consoles can do everything, 4K and 120. But it's not an and, it's an or. These consoles can do 4K or 120. And in some cases, sure, some games can do 4K up to 120 frames per second, but those games are the exception to the rule, and that is not the standard. And as we just saw, in most cases, when 120 frames is actually hit, you're using dynamic scaling resolution and you're losing your native 4K. And in fact, a lot of cases, you're actually giving up your native 4K for a frame rate that's less than 120 frames. Now let's slow things down here. Is this the end of the world? No. Will you overly notice it? Probably not. But you cannot make the claim that consoles are killing PC gaming when the PC can still offer better performance across the board. Wow, that was a lot. I think I made my point. Let's move on. Okay, so the last category is stability and complexity. Okay, so let me talk about complexity first. In my video before you switch to PC gaming, I made the statement that PC gaming is more complicated than console gaming. And oh my goodness, you would have thought that I shot the sacred cow or something. So many people complained about this one tiny little comment. Well, I will have you know, I have received comments from other subscribers on the channel telling me their stories about how PC gaming has been complicated for them. And it makes sense because if you're coming over from console gaming, there are many new things you need to learn about the PC platform. I'll put it to you this way. Generally speaking, is driving a car complicated? I think most people would probably say no. However, is driving a car more complicated than walking down the street? Yes, of course it is. And if you're gonna say no, you're just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's the same thing when I say PC gaming is more complicated than console gaming. I'm not saying in general PC gaming is complicated. I'm just saying when you compare the two platforms, PC gaming offers more, there are more variables because it offers more, and by definition, because it has more things to offer and more variables, it is therefore more complicated than console. Now, with that being said, should that be a reason why to consider PC gaming dead? No, of course not. To be fair, anytime you have to learn something new, it can be perceived as complicated. Furthermore, PCs are easier to use and understand today than they have ever been before. And so if the previous complexities of PC did not kill PC gaming up to this point, there's no way it's going to start now. Now let's finish this up and talk about stability. Oftentimes people say that games are more stable on console than PC, but I don't think that's fair to say. I don't think you can make a generalized statement like that and just apply it to the PC. I think in general, games run well on both platforms. However, some games will run better on the console and some games will run better on the PC. Case in point, Batman Arkham Knight. When Batman Arkham Knight came out, it ran mostly okay on the console. However, it was a colossal nightmare on the PC. But when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, it was the exact opposite. When Cyberpunk first released, it was at least playable on the PC platform. But on the console, it was completely unplayable. It was so bad that Sony had to pull it from the PlayStation Store and Xbox had to offer refunds. The truth is, when you look at the facts, PC gaming has a very long road ahead of it. Consoles are great. This is not a console bashing video at all. I love consoles. I own consoles, but I think we need to be objective and state the facts. And the fact is, PC gaming is not dead, nor is it going to die anytime soon. I hope I didn't step on too many toes with this one, but I feel like this is a topic that is more relevant than ever before. The PC platform is not perfect, and it definitely has some things that it needs to work out, the GPU prices being one of them. But overall, the pros significantly outweigh the cons, and I think most PC users see that. Let me know in the comments below, am I missing something? Am I wrong? Is PC gaming actually dead? I look forward to our discussion together and I hope you found value in this video. Please hit the like button, it goes a long way in helping me out. And until next time, E-Rock out.